Bitcoin just ranging, consolidating for almost a month now. You can see a target to the downside out of this rising wedge. I want to discuss short-term targets for Bitcoin. The CCV Smart Wave offering all of the clues. I want to discuss the momentum of Bitcoin currently. Really some targets to anticipate as we start this week. Also for ADA consolidating after that nice move to the upside last week off of that Ripple win against the SEC. Now also consolidating in a very commonplace fashion. I want to discuss targets for Cardano in this video. So let's start on the Bitcoin chart. And I want to start on the daily. I just want to make note of something. Bitcoin it's in this higher high, higher low pattern. You can just see it on this screen. It's extremely nice formation. Couple rising wedges there. You can see that I have charted. One is kind of this dotted line. We have this pretty new yellow trend line. And that yellow trend line, we're kind of monitoring a potential $33,000 target to the upside. Let's start with that, right? And we go to the 4-hour chart on Bitcoin. I just want to make note of something. On the CCV Smart Wave oscillator, it's actually pretty evident that it is consolidating, right? On this oscillator, you can just kind of see the oscillator cruising. There's been no signals on this CCV Smart Wave. You can see back here, we had this kind of red signal that came into play, and you can see Bitcoin did fall and continued consolidating. You can see back here we had this green signal, and what this is basically divergence signals, right? So this green signal went off almost really nice timing all the way back here. We got the move to the upside. So these signals help, I think, in determining there's a move about to happen, and right now you can just see there's no signals happening. So the other thing that is in play right now, and I just discussed this yellow trend line, $33,000. This is the case for it before we talk about downside for Bitcoin. The case for it is we have the rising wedge. This is painted by Chart Prime automatically. This is a great indicator. It helps me spot patterns that I'm not even really noticing. Target to the downside around 28,500. But with every target, just because we have a pattern and we have a breakout to the downside does not mean the target will be hit. What we monitor is resistance, right? In this case, because we have a breakdown, resistance below this area and then continuation, right? So right now you can just see, and this is happening for days after the breakout a few days ago, just ranging sideways. Is Bitcoin going to make a test at this trend line, or are we just going to fall to the target of a 28,800? The reason I'm discussing this is because so often we see a kind of a fake breakout to the downside and then a pullback into the pattern itself. And it actually turns into a busted pattern where we're actually hitting the opposite target. In this case, a bullish target to the upside, 33,400. The reason why that's an important number, we go over here for Bitcoin on the daily. What is this? This upper trend line. We're talking about the case for this higher high for Bitcoin, and that's in the $33,000 area. So a busted pattern on the short term could truly lead to that. I'd be very curious if we get any signals here on the CCV Smart Wave indicator. And by the way, everybody, if you want all the Chart Prime indicators, and this is just one of them, the pattern here, and the CCV Smart Wave, hit the link below. Go try these out. It's Chart Prime is offering a 7-day trial, but these are the indicators I'm using if you want to use them. Now, the question is, and this is the one thing that we just don't know, will any type of headline event trigger Bitcoin? Something having to do with Bitcoin ETFs, something having to do with a case against the SEC. Will it trigger these charts? And that's just something we don't know. But what I do know is so often the charts are respected, right? So move to the upside. What I'd be watching for is short-term resistance, 30,700, right? No matter if news triggers this or not, that's a $500 move for Bitcoin to the upside. Will there be resistance there? If we break back in, Bitcoin really starts cruising like a move like this over here, are we seeing resistance at this upper trend line, 31,800? Otherwise, a fall to the downside, we know the target, 28,800. The reason that's important over here on the daily chart is this. Where's that 50-day moving average in blue? 28,700. It is right around the targets of this rising wedge that we're tracking over here. So it's just consolidating. This is what Bitcoin does. One thing I do want to make note of is we want to see if we're going to get this power move to the upside, this higher high move. Notice what Bitcoin, when it got pulled into the 20-day moving average before at this last swing high, notice what it was doing. It was seeing support at the 20. Probably my biggest immediate concern right here on Bitcoin is the very fact that we're for 3 days now, seeing resistance below. The one thing kind of in play in terms of support for Bitcoin on the short term is this macro dotted trend line here. So Bitcoin being squeezed between these two areas. The question is, which direction does Bitcoin go? That's what I'll be watching on the short term for Bitcoin. Notice that 20-day also right around 30,000, like $500. Such a key area of resistance, because what's right above there? This trend line of this rising wedge. So let's go pivot to Cardano. Want to point something out on the weekly. So weekly chart, there it is. That crazy weekly resistance at the 20 week, the 50 week. Want to point something out here on the CCV Smart Wave. We have these diamonds down here, right? This diamond recently went off on the weekly chart for ADA. This is what I'm curious of. The last time we had this happen was back here, and it was a pretty nice indicator going off. We had this consolidation. We had this swing high. What really threw these charts off is this huge red candle here from the SEC news. So I'm very curious what, considering the bulk of the bear cycle is over, I'm very curious what this would have led to for ADA on these charts. So the fact that we have another one now after the SEC news, shortly after as well, if you notice, I'm very curious to see what this leads to. Because if you zoom out on the CCV Smart Wave, this Smart Wave for something like ADA, because of how far the data goes back, there's not a ton of data, right? We have these things playing out, but this is in a bear market environment, and it is incredibly crucial to use these indicators with confluence with other indicators, as well as also just the timeline of where we are in cycles. This went off in a bear market, right? So there are a lot of other things in play while that was actually happening, right? And maybe it might have led to a very just brief moment of pump for ADA, which it did. But look at this resistance. Look at the 20-week. There's so much bearishness happening then. Right now, we're getting this going off in kind of this, and this is a special reversal indicator, kind of this more bullish environment for crypto. Let's dig into the short term. This is the fall. This is actually us talking about the setup for this consolidation. ADA was around 34 cents when I did this video, and this was, a few days ago. And now ADA has almost perfectly fallen to our support area. If we look at the support area, we're looking at a swing low to swing high, and it's this Fibonacci retracement. Remember, the 786 right around 30.5 cents, the 618 around 32 cents. We open up our CCV Smart Wave. Check it out. This is playing out nicely, right? We had this reversal, or I should say this bearish divergence signal that went off back here. Very nice area. We had the chart prime sell indicator kind of go off. And so ADA has truly consolidated. What I'm continually watching, I should say, is this. We go over here to the ADA daily. We had this crazy pump, and that's like one day of pump and then consolidation. There's not a lot of structure. Obviously, we've managed to kind of fulfill all of that structure, but right now there's not a lot of structure here. And we go to the daily chart. ADA not only retraced to this Fibonacci that we just discussed, this kind of lower or higher low area of support, but it's also retraced right above this 50-day moving average. And that 50-day moving average is right around 30 cents. The 20-day moving average just below 30 cents. We're looking for this case for the 20-day to cross above the 50. So in a bullish environment, what we'd be looking for is some type of structure now, right? So I don't know what that will look like. Maybe there will be continued resistance here. Maybe ADA kind of starts putting in some moves to the upside, testing this lower high Fibonacci once again, and we're maybe getting some type of ascending triangle while the 20-day crosses above the 50. That's a bullish case. That's what we're looking for. To the downside, though, ADA is right around 31.5 cents. We have to continually monitor basically this trend that ADA is in, right? This lower trend line, namely from this pattern that's set up back here. We can even at this point pretty much just get rid of that upper trend line. That pattern really played out very nicely. The target to the upside hit very nicely. But now that we're falling, is ADA going to continue to fall to this higher low trend line? That's right around 29 cents for ADA. From where it is right now to the downside, we'd be looking at a fall of around 8%. And if that were to happen, will ADA hold? So you can see room to the downside for ADA. We go to that Bitcoin chart we just covered, room to the downside for Bitcoin. If we're looking at price range for Bitcoin, if it's going to fall to that downside target, 4.5% or so. So we could see an environment where Bitcoin's falling 4 to 5%. ADA's falling over here around 8%, continuing to consolidate. If that happens, what are oscillators doing? 6-hour oscillator here, the CCV Smart Wave. It's already overbought in terms of this ribbon. It's a kind of a reflection of a smoother looking stochastic RSI, smoother, but a fast moving momentum oscillator. Go over to the weekly. I wanted to point out, kind of as we're discussing this reversal signal on the CCV Smart Wave, I just wanted to point out, and I kind of forgot to mention, the MACD, the case for ADA. If this MACD crosses this signal line, there's a strong case for ADA momentum to the upside. ADA price, and there's downside. We know that. We just tracked it. But ADA price is seemingly so suppressed and ready for a breakout. And the weekly chart even kind of signals the potential for that. But a lot of it will have to do with what happens in the shorter term. Can ADA get that breakout to the upside to start forming some structure now? But it's been 1, 2, 3. We're in our 4th red candle for ADA. And you can just see it's kind of trying to find structure and consolidate. This is what I'll be tracking on Cardano in the short term. And that's it, everybody. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let me know how you're doing out there. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.